Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally happened. We said let's let bears move into our country, and they'll just do their own thing. But now we have become a beartocracy. The bears have taken over. They brought their culture with them. I don't know. I'm just doing my best Rush Limbaugh as if bears were invading. I was thinking about that episode of The Simpsons where Homer was like, "Let the bears pay the bear tax. I pay the Homer tax," but he meant the homeowner tax. But yeah, this entire episode is going to actually be about something which is unusual. Meredith is back, which is unusual. It's an unusual type of day, only really for those two reasons, though. Nothing else is unusual about today. Like, I'm wearing a sport coat made out of sweatery pajama material because I discovered that's a thing. So now, as I decline into my sunset years, I'm just going to be walking around in this instead of like ratty hoodies, so I'll look less like I'm going insane, but I will be. And that's the nice thing. And I'm going to do it in comfort and style. I just felt I needed to bring up the suit coat thing. But yeah, no, we're actually... this isn't going to be the terrible bait and switch that often is the case when I'm doing... I put like some clickbait thing and we only end up talking about it for like 3 seconds. You know, the weird shitty Willy Wonka experience thing being different. We actually... Me and Chris and Derek managed to focus on that for almost the entire time until we got off on the tangent about that lovely lady with the 2 heads that recently got married. And the biggest bombshell, of course... I haven't seen Meredith in a while from that episode, was that Derek put forth what seemed to be drunkenly that one of them is like the main one and the other one is sort of this weird like superfluous Kawato thing or whatever. I guess that's sort of the case.
In the marriage. Here we go. No, we're not.
I know.
About bears.
And so we're going to talk about bears, and I'm still a little bit like... I don't know. I feel a little bit raw about how disappointing Cocaine Bear was, but I think I made basically 1.5 episodes about that.
You did.
I had to. It's bothering me right now, but no. So there's this big thing going around right now, where there was like a study. Was it a study? Is that what the whole thing is? Was it a survey?
No. I think really it was just a
post on Tumblr
or somebody,
that's what it sounds like,
who had just made a comparison of just male aggression and women.
Male aggression, yeah. I love that too. Like it is something anyone's gonna ever do anything about, and I don't mean like they shouldn't. I don't mean like. Men should not be running around like cavemen, clubbing women and dragging them around.
The comparison was...
It's true.
The scenario that was given was, if you are a woman and you're walking alone in the woods, would you rather run into a bear or a male that you don't know? And the majority of women who answered said they'd rather run into a bear.
Okay, and so that's the thing, and that's fine. Like that's actually kind of reasonable too. But the thing is it's evolved into this thing that's being bandied around a lot. You know, it's like, hey, this is important. Like this is how this is the state of things in the world these days. Which again, I'm gonna dig into why. Like it's certainly not these days.
Well,
it's certainly been forever.
It's just a thing of trying to get the point across to men how unsafe women have felt.
Yeah.
Forever, and so this comparison was given. I don't know whether or not to like help understanding or to be insulting or to be whatever. It's not insulting to me.
No, it's not insulting.
That's why.
Yeah, it's not insulting to me either. And I guess that's what I should say, because we're going to talk about this like the whole time. It's not insulting to me, and I don't need people to feel like less animosity towards like men. For one, I don't do team fucking sports at all. I'm like, no, men aren't so bad. See, I gotta argue about it because I am a man. It's like, I don't stand up for white people. I don't stand up for humans, period, if we're just gonna lump everyone together. We are a virus upon this earth, as was pointed out in that awful Matrix sequel. However, that point was very salient. But yeah, I don't have a thing. Like, I don't have like, Minnesotans are better than people from Wisconsin. It's like, yeah, for every last possible reason, we definitely are. But I'm not going to just run around screaming about it. There's probably states that are better than us out there. And that's completely fine. There's countries I'd fucking rather live in. Like, it's like, there's good things about this one. But like, there's lots of bad things about this one. So it's like, I'm sure when I like visit Portugal, I'll be like, I want to live here now. And then if I ever were to live there, I'd find all the things wrong with it and be like, oh, what I'm not going to be
Grass
like.
is always greener.
It is always greener, and like that thing where you're just proud of whatever weird group you're part of is bad. And I kind of want to re-bring that up because I feel like we've the smart ass or smart kids I get at the lunch table. We're always the ones that kind of knew that like living and dying by how your high school football team did wasn't exactly great. It's no way to live your life. It's nothing to be that mixed up in or proud of or whatever. And also being like overly proud of your race or whatever is oh God, we can't have these white pride rallies. But of course, a lot of people get shit on over the years by smaller groups, by larger groups. So we have to have things like gay pride parades, which are important and everything like that. But I think there's some younger people that have gotten the wrong message, which is like, okay, as long as it's not X, Y, or Z, we should be insanely focused on whatever it is that we are. That also includes younger men. Make no mistake, I am not only making fun of like the kind of person that would share that article and go like, see, I'm very solidly making fun of the guys that are like, not all men are like that. And it's like, that's very annoying. The thing that's getting me though is that I kind of feel like if I was going to intentionally try to rile those guys up before like an election or something, I would put out an article like this. You know what I mean? Like, I know that sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, but as someone who's always been a fan of and now literally works in propaganda, I kind of knows it when I sees it, or at least I get a little suspicious. And I'm very suspicious of anything that ever gets important on the internet. Anything that's ever a big deal online. I don't think it's possible anymore. And as someone who's tried to make music and like less lucrative non-corporate art for a living for a good chunk of my life before I just went corporate, I will tell you that it's like every last story about something getting big on the internet magically by itself is absolute hogwash.
I feel like what you're getting into right now should be like in the meat of the podcast. Like,
okay,
like 5 minutes in. Like right now, we should be just like talking about our bullshit opinions.
Well,
I just like kind of like going over the stupidness of it. Maybe I'll read some memes.
Oh, and yeah, I kind of wanted to be like before I start, because this is what I learned from posting a relatively innocuous thing about it on Facebook the other day. Before I start, I'm not coming from the weird toxic man part of this. And I know everybody says they're not, but I want you to know that like, that's not really, but not, there's people that don't necessarily know that that's not my jam, because I got a little bit too much fanfare from some of them when I made my polar bear joke. It doesn't matter. I know, but I'm saying it at the beginning and not at the end. That's
well, I know, but you started to go into the meat of the main like
the propaganda stuff.
Propaganda, right. which is it's your thing, baby.
I know.
But
well, we'll get there.
Let's start off late.
Okay, all right.
And then get into the deal.
Okay, so
it could be
right. What all these angles of this thing are. It's kind of tough because there's like a lot of. I even like made actual notes for this. Usually when I'm looking down, I'm ashamed on this podcast, and it might look like I'm reading notes, but I just feel bad about what I'm saying, but I have to say it or whatever. But this time I'm actually looking at notes periodically. So anyway, I'm pointing out that I'm not doing the thing. I don't care what anybody thinks of other men. I kind of don't really care what anybody thinks of me. Like, I don't need everyone on the internet to like me. I don't need, and I know that's kind of like when Meredith and I were younger, we would learn things like, don't judge people by what they look like or their socioeconomic background, and like, don't, again, like I was saying, like, don't get too hung up on that stuff. And it's like, but now there's a little bit of a thing going on culturally where, again, I think it's people who are younger for the most part. It seems like their main ethos is you need to get every last of 8 billion people on Earth to get on board and to loudly celebrate everything about you that there is, rather than going, some people might not like me and fuck them and I'm just going to move on. Which is a lot easier. The thing I was just describing seems to be exhausting and pointless. But again, I have to mention that because I think it factors into a lot of things. So when I make fun of something, even a little, it's not me saying that thing is invalid. And it's not, it's not me choosing like a side. I'm probably on the thing's fucking side, generally speaking. And in this case, I am saying that, yeah, I am. The comparison of men are horribly dangerous to women is like a real fucking thing that I am fucking incredibly aware of.
It's that and validating the feeling of, women and their fear, their actual fear.
Which a lot of 14-year-old dudes on the internet at large are happy to do and not turn it into a fucked up joke or take it personally and get mad about it, which is a little bit of part of what I wanted to get into, because I hear what you're saying for sure, but man, once the genie gets fully out of the bottle and into the Reddit and Facebook at large, like, it's like your feelings may not end up being super validated, but in this particular case, it's something that I think everybody definitely needs to be like aware of. Like that, I think that's super important.
I totally am with you on this may, be a bigger, more important issue. I mean, it's an important issue no matter what, but more of an important issue to, younger people than I. Mm-hmm. Because when you get to be my age, men mostly just ignore you. So I'm not really too concerned.
It isn't, boy, that's nothing I have heard chimed in on. I have not yet heard one lady of perhaps a certain age. Now I have to do the fix and be like, maybe you should be. I miss when gangs of men in India were trying to gang rape me. Lucky you, must be nice. I don't know why old ladies are Gilbert Gottfried. No, but I'm actually kind of waiting for that now to become a thing, because when
I heard this thing, well, first of all, when I heard this comparison, I was like, fuck, I hate bears, okay? So bears are just...
I forgot you hated bears.
Yes, I hate bears. I hate bears and monkeys, okay? Like,
monkeys is fair.
Don't like them. I just... For many reasons...
What about orangutans, though? They're like the wise...
I prefer a gorilla.
Okay, gorillas are good.
Okay, so yeah.
I don't like chimps, obviously. They're monsters.
Never... Just hated bears. So I'm like, oh, great. So now I have to choose between a man and a fucking bear. Like, worst case scenario for me. So I'm just gonna from my situation, from my standpoint, nothing against anybody else, but I'm gonna pull the Office thing here and I'm gonna be like, corporate gave you these two pictures, and one is gonna be of a bear and a man, and they're gonna show me those pictures, and then corporate wants you to tell the difference between these two pictures.
It's the same picture.
It's the same picture. For me, if I run into a man or if I run into a bear in the goddamn woods, which I'll never be in the woods. I'm sorry. I never leave my house.
Yeah, that's the other thing is
if I run into a bear or a man, I'm going to be equally upset.
I think that here's the bigger thing. I think that like running into either of them out of place makes everything, like if you find just a man if you're wandering alone in the woods and there's a man, that is scary. But if you're in the grocery store and there's a bear, that's another problem. The grocery store is filled with men already, and we're all kind of fine with that. But if there's a bear in there, but that's the thing. It's like you shouldn't be. A lot of people, their ethos is do not sit there making funny little jokes like that about this, because it's so serious.
We're not making light of the issue of the fact that like there is rape and all the different emotional, verbal, all that abuse and stuff that happens between people in general. Like that's not the point. It's just like, it's weird they use, that's not really weird they use this comparison, but it's not necessarily the greatest comparison. It's
a little comical. And then that's the thing, though. It's like, for an issue this important, I was saying before we started the podcast that I would like for it to hold water better. It should, like, if you use something that's truly like a lightning bolt of unarguable truth or whatever, anyone making fun of it just ends up looking like an idiot without anyone else's help. And this is too much. Bears are too much fun. Like, that's the whole entire problem here. And the thing that set me off on it, after Meredith brought it up to me, but I was kind of like, okay, I kind of see this. But the thing that made me have to say something about it was someone made a list of things about guys versus bears, like running into them in the woods. And that is the one thing I saw, the seed that grew this entire yelling situation was that someone was like, all the things a bear won't do. And it was like, oh, the bear, if you leave it alone, it'll leave you alone. And that's where I was like, well, hang on just a fucking second, because that really depends on the bear. If it is a black bear, which again, I just want the argument to be airtight that y'all are making. I want it to be good, so you should probably say I'd rather run into a black bear in the woods.
Yeah, because mostly they're just foraging for
they
berries.
Just want garbage. Like, that's all black bears want. They're all fat. They all just eat trash. 1,000,000%. I wouldn't be the least bit concerned about, like, I would be more worried about a strange man in the woods than I would be about running into a black bear, as even a guy. I'd be like, okay, there's just a weirdo out here. That's no good. But a black bear is okay. But the minute it's like, now, but the joke I made was about polar bear, because I think people don't get how nasty those things are. Like, they will run you down and kill you. If you see one, it's like too late.
Well, the place that I would love to move
very
to,
scary.
and of course I forget the name, but it's this little area like in the northern part of Norway where you don't need a visa to live there. You can just go live there if you want.
Weird.
I think it's called Svalbard or something like that. It's an island, but there's some towns around it. You have to take a shotgun with you every time you leave your house.
Yeah.
Scare away, polar bears, because occasionally during, the dark.
Well, they'll move. They'll move around.
They'll be looking for food, and you could potentially be that. But that doesn't necessarily deter me away from living there.
Well, that's the thing. Having a gun big enough to kill a polar bear, I think would also sort of like, again, and that's the problem with this whole thing. If you were to factor that into the meme of like, well, I'd rather run into a bear. Once you have, and I believe a Casull 454 will kill a bear, and that's a handgun. Now, it's also a potential broken wrist. That is like an absolute cannon of a thing. It's bigger than a Colt 45. Like, and there was a lady who was a survivalist that actually did shoot a polar bear with one of those. And, like, she actually lives up where there would be polar bear, maybe even where you're describing. And it was very remote, very cold. Because, like, listening to her talk she was on a bunch of podcasts a couple of years, making the rounds, and because she was, like, down in the States for some reason. But she talked about how she had to, like, put on certain amounts of weight by a certain time in the year to, like, survive. She was living survivalisty, like, to that level. Svalbard. Where you must always have something to kill a polar bear with.
It's a Norwegian archipelago between mainland... Archipelago, thank you.
Yeah.
Between mainland Norway and the North Pole.
So yeah, you're getting on...
most inhabited areas?
It's probably the most inhabited area in that part of the world, which would be 10 people
frozen tundra,
would do it.
Sheltered polar bears, reindeer, and Arctic foxes.
Wow. Yeah, like, so people, and that was some of the thing, when I made my remark, and my remark on Facebook was as follows. I get it, and if you know me, you know I get it. I didn't post a meme or anything, because I knew this was a big enough cultural thing after you pointed out to me that everyone would immediately know what I was talking about. And I'm like, but we're not talking about, like, polar bears, are we? And then there was people that were like, yup, even those. And I'm like, okay, I don't think you know what those are. Like, you might have a chance with a guy. You could even if he's a murdery, rapey, horrible man, you could maybe trick him or get away from him. The polar bear will get you.
They're not saying that. What they were saying is all the other things that a man could do to you psychologically,
right,
and whatever. But here's another thing that I want to point out. Again, I'm choosing the bear, even though how much I hate the bear.
I know you are.
Because I hate men. You're cool.
Yeah. I don't like them either, especially
I know. But I mean, have y'all ever seen Grizzly Man?
Oh, that's bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, he poked the bear, but his girlfriend, she was the one that got dragged in her tent and shit and got like all the fuck ripped up.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I can't speak for everybody in the world, so I
think about like that. Like when you're saying like all the evil things that a human being
right,
can
like
do
a bear might start eating you at your feet and take the better part of a day eating up until you're dead, and you might live through at least half of that. And it's true. A man, however, might call you a bitch when you tell him that you have a boyfriend. So I understand how
men. I hate this.
I understand how that could maybe be worse, like than having your ass ripped out of your spine by a monster over the course of 10 hours.
Well, at least it's quick. And you know what?
No, it won't be. It probably won't
But
be
I'd rather
quick.
go by polar bear because I don't think those fuckers would like take their time. I think they would just slash and go. They're hungry. They're hungry. They're going to eat quick. It's cold. They're after you.
But if you look, if you, I don't want to bring like science or biology into this because the crowd posting this is they're all for academia and science. They're getting a little far away from biology on a lot of fronts. We won't go into that. But it's like the polar bears definitely eat you they don't eat you head first. And for some reason, they're wired to do that. All bears are wired to do that would eat an animal. I don't know why that is.
Maybe I'll just bleed out real quick.
And that's what you're praying for, a not as slow grizzly. You know what they call it? A grizzly death. You want to know why?
Well, we're not talking about a grizzly bear.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, I went straight to polar bear, but I do think there needs to be everything's a goddamn spectrum with you kids now. So why isn't there a bear spectrum? It's like, I'd rather run into these 3 bears up to here.
Exactly.
But once we get up here, and it's like, that isn't the point. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm bored, okay? So I need to post things online and argue with people because it's fun to me. And I also don't particularly think it's hurting anything. And also, I did want to point, I keep almost having something really funny to say and then forgetting, but I did want to mention this, and I didn't even write this down, but that a particularly funny comedian actually pointed this out, like, I think more than 10 years ago, that how he would be, like, terrified if he had to be dating men, like, as a woman. He's like, you know what the number one cause of death of women is worldwide? It's men. It's basically dating, and he said in the bit, a combination of, like a gorilla and a bear mixed into one animal, and you just go, I hope this one's nice. I guess I'll get into a car and do it with it at 10 at night and hope for the best. And he made, like, all of these very, like, and everyone laughed because everyone's like, it's like that. It'd be like that. So I feel like it's a thing we know. Also, that comedian was Louis C.K., so now how do you feel about what I just said? But he wasn't wrong. He absolutely knew that. So, I mean, whatever. It could have been anyone.
I thought you were going to say Bill Burr, and then I was like, well, Bill Burr knows most. I
think Bill Burr is I think the way he wraps things up in his bits. I know a lot of women don't like him, but I know a lot that do. And I don't think he's just one of those awful people that just is like,
I don't know. He kind of makes sense, and then sometimes he says iffy things, but so does everybody. So
yeah, really, well, and it's also your job to do that as like a stand-up comic. Like you say iffy things, and sometimes they don't work. And it's also the other weird thing, and I think this is some of the comedy show that we would frequent the most. I don't know if it's everywhere or maybe that particular room has a little bit more of a proclivity for this, but that weird thing where everybody seems to forget that you're not at church. When you go up there, you're not saying things that you believe in, and then that's what you do. A lot of times you're saying stuff you don't even agree with, but you found something that's funny, so you say it and you hope to get a laugh. But some people get really mad because they're like, that guy said that it would be good if, like, the whole world was eaten by sea otters or something. It's like, he probably doesn't really think that. He probably just thinks that was a funny thing to say at the time or whatever. But it like, I don't want to get too much into the weird world of, like, how no one can deal with jokes anymore, because that just also falls too far into the annoying manosphere thing. It's
now we're gonna get into the Jerry Seinfeld conversation.
Yeah, see, and I don't
want to go into
I don't want to talk about
Maybe
that
next time.
And I think it's dumb, and I think it's also, to me though, here's the thing where I'm off board with, like, all the guys that complain about that or that try to defend men in the face of the whole bear comparison or whatever. I'm like, why do you guys need everyone to like you so much? I don't mean to use gendered language here, but how about you grow up and be a man? Like, stop. Like, yeah, let the 12-year-old girls that would, they saw too much online porno and they're like, that's what a woman is. Ew, I'm gonna be some magic thing that isn't a man or a woman and just look like Harry Potter for a while until after college and then whatever. But, like, let them worry about the whole world being on board with every last belief and quirk and thing that they have or whatever. The guys, why don't you just quit trying to defend comedy? Like, just be like, yeah, comedy hurts people's feelings sometimes and it's bad, and, like, sometimes it isn't even funny, and sometimes, but there it is. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like, again, I said earlier, I'd rather run into a bear than a man in a lot of situations if I'm out in the woods. Like, I have no problem with that. And that leads me to one of the bigger things I've gotten out of this. And I can't ever truly know if I'm right about this, but I have an inkling. And I think it's one of the reasons, and Alexis does this kind of thing sometimes too, where she'll get a big laugh at work by saying something out loud that everybody knows is true and that literally everybody pretends isn't true. But the reason it's so funny is like, you do know it's true. It's not even that you're ignoring it or whatever. It's that you're actively, like, she'll say something and kind of get a big laugh. And it's like, not even like, you're not supposed to say it out loud. It's past that. It's more like we're all supposed to pretend we believe that this isn't even the case. And where I'm going with this is I know the horrible capacity for just nightmarish violence and the sexual things that I think about and stuff. It's like, that's everybody. Like, and everybody has a really big tendency to go like, well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't even, it's not hard for me, like, getting a boner, to not get a boner thinking about this horrific situation, because like, I don't even find that. I never think about anything. I never think about eating the neighbor's kids if the apocalypse happens. I would never. I'd be one of the good ones. And I'm like, I don't believe you. Like, I don't believe anybody when like, every single, and let's just go with the men here. I think it's humans, but I won't get into that. Every man has the capacity to basically be Genghis Khan. Let's just say that, because he was a long time ago, so no one will get hung up on politics with Genghis Khan. But he definitely was like a murdery, power mad, rapey, monstrous guy, and got like all of Asia to basically like follow him and do the same thing with him and stuff at one point in history or whatever. So let's just like look at him. Every dude has the capacity to be Genghis Khan. And my little asterisk will be, every woman would be too if they were bigger than men. But they're not. A man can kill a woman with his bare hands. That's the problem here. If you could kill me with your bare hands, like, I think the world would look a little bit different. It's just, in the animal kingdom, you know,
there are some men that could kill with my bare hands.
It's outliers, though. You know what I mean? Like, if you took me at 25 years old and, you know, like, and like 110-pound lady, it's like, I could absolutely rip whoever's at his head, like, clean off. Now, I'm getting old, and I am kind of a big guy. Like, I look like I'm looking more and more like a retired football player whenever I wear a suit that's just kind of like, we're going to talk about what happened this Sunday. But, you know, yeah, there's scrawny, wienery guys, and there are Amazonian women out there. Yes, that is definitely a thing. But it was just looking at, but the numbers don't, you know, it's not, if you guys were all the big ogres and we were all little, like if humans were like other animals, you know what I mean? Like how some of them, the females are way, way fucking bigger. And also, I'll point out that a lot of the time in those situations, the females eat the male animal. Like, it's like, oh, it turns out when the female of the species is bigger, they'll absolutely resort to cannibalism, like, without a second thought. So,
right,
you know,
after we're done fucking, I'm eating it.
Well, yeah, because, like, and it never works the other way around because you guys have to gestate the baby, but the guy is just like a pollinator. Like, you can just get eaten. Like, that's fine. Well, you don't need him after that. And, like, but, see, that's kind of my point. There's an undercurrent to some of the discourse surrounding this, which is like, yeah, we should definitely be painting all men as like horrible psychos because we definitely are. But I think human beings are horrible psychos, and I think the reason that like women are like, well, we would never do such a thing, and it's like, I think the minute you could, you would. It's just that tens of thousands of years of not being able to.
We could also talk about what women already do. I mean, like, they're very capable of the same kind of abuse that they receive from men, so...
Yeah.
So, like, it's, once again...
I don't want to get lost in the weeds being...
You know, it's just, like, I'm just, like... That's why I like to say it's kind of like a person deal that, you know, not... I mean, it's still very genderized because you're right, just biology and shit like that.
Better, bigger and stronger and completely monstrous, and it's but yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily make them more evil per se. It just makes them evil in a different way.
Yeah, and then
just the way our society is structured, as you know.
Right, and that's another point I kind of wanted to. I wanted to get to is the structure of society, because okay, so it's like thinking about when things grow wings on the internet. Now that we are a half hour in here, you know, they don't really tend to happen organically anymore, and it's always meant to look like it did, but it usually didn't. Like, you know, there's that like that hippie chick with the white dreadlocks and like weird facial piercings that was like kind of everywhere for half a second, and then it turned out that do you know who I'm talking about? There's memes.
I don't, but
she was like this crystal.
I've heard you talk about it.
Yeah, everybody. I don't know her name, but it was always making fun of like her as sort of a, what is that, like a Burning Man type of person or whatever, which is what she looked like, and talking about crystals and stuff. But it turns out that she had like an album that had come out or something. And I kind of caught wind of that. And then I also noticed that everyone stopped posting things about her and talking about her like basically all at once. And I was like, oh, that's this person's PR campaign that they paid for. The 3 months was up. Like, it wasn't this natural thing where some chick made a TikTok video. It was like, oh, it was like Paris Hilton. You ever...
Never has been.
Yeah. Well, Paris Hilton's thing is she was everywhere for, we all know she was everywhere for a while, but somewhere in 2007, it came out publicly that her family cut her off because she was like embarrassing them. And instead of becoming like more popular, like, well, that's even bigger, crazier news, it fell right off. So they cut off the money supply that was pushing her to the top of everything because she was a concerted effort to like do that stuff and like whatever. And
it's not exactly a secret that, publicists are paid paparazzi.
I don't think a lot of people know that though. I mean, it's not exactly a secret, but like people do not get shit like that. Like they don't get how manufactured. You know that shit. I definitely know that shit. But I talk to like adults on a regular basis where I'm like sitting there explaining it to them and they're like, holy fuck, man, like that I guess it makes total sense.
Famous.
And they're not stupid people. They're not like 20 years old. They're like closer to my age and they're just like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, so obviously, and then some, clearly, like, there's a lot of people who are even dumber that aren't going to ever get that and whatever. But point being is that it's basically impossible. If you try to make it in something and you're like, well, I don't get it. Like, I'm hot, the music's good. It's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. You have to be hot, the music has to be good. But then the third thing that has to happen, or literally no one will ever care, is like somewhere close to $1 million at bare minimum has to get spent on a digital PR agency or whatever to like make sure that everyone hears about you, be it meme or whatever. So anyway, that in mind, when stuff like, oh, I need to chime in on the man versus bear in the woods woman thing, blah, 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 like everyone's talking about it all at once. Is it a little bit, incendiary, like it's the kind of thing people will pick up on easily? Sure, but so was By Menon. And it wasn't going to happen unless they spent all that money to have Don Draper put it on TV. Like, that's the thing. It wasn't just going to happen by itself. Yeah, we're all going to sing it because we've heard it 3,000 times because someone paid $100 million to make sure we heard it. Like, that's how that goes.
Hot Pocket.
It's not quite By Menon, but it's good. Yeah, that kind of thing. So this, I feel like, and we know this, like even all the way up to big stupid things like Joe Rogan's podcast, like even people on that level were like admitting that like, oh yeah, we've completely figured out that there's just giant bot farms and other countries can't really beat us in a stand-up fight or anything. So it's like, yeah, they just put weird shit on the internet to try to like sow division and cause people to like lose faith in the fabric of society and everything like that. And I just feel
by using a valid cause or a valid point.
Oh yeah, it's called astroturfing. It's totally just, which is, by the way, astroturf versus grassroots. It's meant to look like it's this thing everyone cares about, but it's actually being like, like an oil company is. Because have you ever noticed that, like, just as an aside, but this is comparable, that there's a lot of people all of a sudden that are like, they have to strip mine. Electric cars also use what is that, nickel cadmium or whatever it is in the batteries, and there's like slave labor and all this stuff, and it's like they're like, so they're not so great after all. And it's like, okay, where were you when the oil company, it's like, okay, so you've basically proven to me that it's just as bad. But these are the same people, by the way, that, like, these are Fox News people. Like, you guys were like, no, the oil companies aren't that bad. But suddenly the environment matters now that it's something that's taken money away from that, and you haven't figured out why suddenly that's so important to you magically, because everything you watch and listen to is pointing it out, because they're paid by the oil companies the way they were 30 years ago to tell you that driving a Prius makes you gay. Like, you can't have that.
Another good one is the vaping versus cigarette, the tobacco.
Oh yeah, because it's like,
well, now we need to take away all the flavors because the children, and it's like,
there was a really good Netflix documentary about that, and they actually pointed out that it's like, here's the data that's like, not vaping is like this level of cancer, and vaping is this level. Look at that. And they're like, also though, here's what cigarettes do. They were like, So, so then it's like cigarettes. I can't even do it. Yeah, cigarettes and then like vaping. And it's like, well, but see how it would still be better if you didn't vape? It's like...
But the children, John.
Oh, yeah, and they always use the children, and they always use something. And so, like...
Say, as a child, I smoked cigarettes, so...
Yeah.
Eat it.
I met you as a child, and you definitely smoked a lot. And you were having sex.
What?
Yes, that's...
Yeah. Guess what? Humans do stuff.
Yeah, and I'm doing that thing where I interchange child and teenager like some people do to make certain people look bad for no reason, even though that's insane. But, like... And that brings us back to the whole bear maim thing a little bit, where it's like, I do think that its salience is sort of this thing that I think is meant to make... Because, like, as much as it's a good thing to know of, and it's like, okay, it's a nice little simplification so you can kind of explain things, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's designed to work, though. It feels like it's designed to make people that disagree with it dig their heels in. Yeah, and
make people feel bad.
Yeah, it's designed to make women be like, that's right, that's how it is. And you guys already know how it is. You've lived it, Dottie. It's like that. Yeah, you guys know how terrifying it is to be a woman anywhere where there's men or on
And then
Earth.
where there's like really young men, teenagers, whatever, it's gonna like make them feel bad and be like, oh my god, women hate us, so now we need to hate them more.
Oh, and by the way, that's a big problem that's happening right now.
Yes.
Is young men are becoming extremely, susceptible to all the, like, Jordan Petersons and Andrew Tates and stuff of the world, because they're just being told that they're garbage. Are you straight and white and a man? Well, why don't you just get the fuck out of society? The problem is what does that mean? Where are they going to go? The gun store? Because that's pretty much it. Like, it's like...
we need to educate them, but not also, like, make them, like, validate them, almost. You're, like, validating all these garbage people's opinions, and, like...
Yep.
Like...
And again, it feels like it's designed to do that.
Yeah.
It's not designed to help. It's perfect, too. Like, it's a beautiful... As someone that works in this a little bit, like, it's a beautiful thing because... where the best kind of stuff like that, and by best I don't mean that it's good, I mean the effective. The most effective stuff like that is stuff where the people who are on the side of it, let's just say, they're like, that's right. One more time for the people in the back. Blah, 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 blah. It feels genuine to them, but it's perfectly designed to galvanize the kind of the opposition side or whatever, who are even like, it's this stir up the just hatefulness or whatever.
Unknowing. Think about that, like somebody that's just like starting to just experience the world.
Oh, well, I can actually speak to this directly because I remember this every once in a while. My memory is shitty because I've lived too much, so there's no room. Like, things just fall out of my ears everywhere. But, like, someone reminds me, and it's like, oh, shit, that's right. So, I think I was in, like, junior high, like 7th or 8th grade or something, middle school, whatever that is. I think it might have been 7th grade. They brought in someone to browbeat the boys. And it was a couple, but one of them it was a guy and a gal from some university or something. And this isn't recent because I'm old. This was like the early 90s or whenever. And they came in to tell us about how terrible we were, basically. Like, she got, like, mad while she was talking. Like, it was like this whole... It's like the kind of thing that you're like, that's not real. If they put it in a TV show, you'd be like, okay, that's laying it out a little thick. But she was just like, man, rape is about power, and the penis is just a dangerous toy. And, like, she said some real weird... That stuck with me, because that was crazy. She was, like, just one of those mean feminists that you think are made up by, like, Rush Limbaugh or whatever, but, like...
That's not a feminist. That's a...
No, it was just a misandrist, I think, probably. But disguised as, like, I want to make everything equal by making life horrible for you.
Making you feel bad for, like...
Yeah, but the thing is they were saying all this stuff, and me, who's generally, like, despite what some people will tell you, a fairly decent guy, especially when you compare me to, like, everyone on Earth and throughout all of history, then I'm great. But, like... me and every other guy in that class, even the guys who would, like, be shitty to me, I won't exactly say picked on because I was always so much bigger than everyone else when I was at school, because I've been this size since 7th grade, whereas everyone else was, like, still a kid. I didn't like sports, so they were mean to me, but then I could just push them and they'd fall down. Like, whatever. I was sitting there, like, commiserating with these dudes after this, just being like, oh, what a bunch of fucking bullshit. It's just like, I don't know, like, Like, I haven't even done anything yet. We're just getting yelled at. You know what I mean? It just galvanized. Looking back, I'm like, wow, that was effective at making us not listen to what they were saying. And it's shit that I'd never even thought about. But now I was like, who the fuck are these people? Like, who do women think they are? Like, you know, and again, I got out of it like, I was never like a pushy me. I don't know. You knew me when I was a bit younger. It was like, I don't think it was ever like a terrible, like, all I know to talk about is sports and I just get mean and like I'm just this like attack drone that like a lot of dudes, I don't know how else to really put it. A lot of guys are. They're just these things that go to work and make life hard for whatever women are around them. Drive a truck. I don't know. Like, I've never been that thing. A lot of people shorthand that to straight guys, which is annoying because it's like, well, I am a straight guy. Like, I'm not like a Mr. Truckee McBaseball face guy, but like, say that. Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's straight guys out there like me that have a sense of style, that know how to take care of the woman they love and the other women in their life that they're friends with in a way that's reasonable and decent and whatever. And, you know, even on this podcast, like, I'll be talking shit just now and you'll be like, it was actually like that. And I'll be like, oh yeah, good point. See, I don't want a cookie for that because that's how everyone should be. I'm just saying a lot of people are not like that. And so when you kind of are like this one kind of guy, you're like, I know who you know who I'm talking about, you know. But like, I never got that far or whatever. But like, nevertheless, that whole experience, and that was like one time just in school, which I already hated anyway. I didn't want to listen to nothing nobody had to say up at the front of a classroom. Like, it made me mad all the time, and it was just annoying and dumb and made me feel bad. But like school sucks. But like now it's like this constant cycle of shit inundating people. So whatever it is, it's just like multiply that by like 1 million of like all of the stuff that were just like raining down on younger.
Now let's bring that into like today's times. Like, say you saw like an assembly like that at school, and then you could go home on the internet, and then, you know, there you've got your Andrew Tate and all your other stuff. You're like, oh my god, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like,
it's like, finally someone's making some sense. No, it's the shit that gets Trump elected. Like, it's exactly like, you can't, like,
why can't we just make a point and y'all understand it, you know? Like,
yeah, well,
why do you have to like be like,
Well, you answered your own question, though. It's like, well, because it comes off as so, like you're the what's wrong with everything, and, like, whatever. It's like...
Well, I know, it's just, I just, like, just human nature and the way to just, like, bully each other around, and just power plays and whatnot. It's like...
Well,
it's we need to educate ourselves all on. We don't need to be fucking assholes.
Well, yeah. But I take, you know, in the words of John Connor as a 10-year-old, we're not going to make it, are we? Like, it's like, I don't see. It's like, but see, that's the thing that kind of. There's one more disconnect I kind of wanted to get to a little bit here, and it's that, and I'm. You know, again, this is partially why the huge disclaimer at the beginning that it's just like, I do get it, like, whatever. But, like, I feel like there's this undercurrent thought that the nature of, like, human biology and physics and everything can ever really be changed. And I don't think, I mean, and this isn't even just, like gendered stuff. Like, I'm talking about, like, eventually, like right now, we're living in a time where once again, like 20 people own everything and everything's getting shittier and shittier for everybody else. And it's happened in history in these waves. Mm-hmm. But it's like, we're never going to get to like a post-greed era where everything's just perfect or whatever because of the way people are. And that can't change. Like literally like a godlike AI running the show for us actually is the one thing that plausibly could have a chance. Although the road to get there is beset on all sides by the tyranny of evil men, like, but and all this other shit. So it's like I don't think we ever will. But it doesn't change the way people are. Even if we did have a godlike AI watching over us, there'd be some people that are like, yeah, but we think we should have a little bit more. They'd find a way to be shitty. They'd find a way to take advantage of other people. They'd find a way. And to wit, men. And I kind of want to like. This is going to be like a little bit controversial, and I want to be very clear about what I'm about to say here. I sort of agree. When women, particularly with my life experiences and stuff, I definitely see it and I get it. But a lot of women will be like, you know, women are just as horny as men. It's just that we're like a little pickier and whatever. And I'm like, I think that's definitely true in a way. But I don't think that it's as dark with women. And this goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, where no dude wants to admit what's really going on in their head? Like, what are you really jacking off to? Like, how, like, I've thought of this thing once. Like, if I was gonna talk to somebody who is just like, no, we know what it's like to have all these impulses. We're just better at controlling them. I'm like, I don't think you know how bad it actually is. So I'm like, in this conversation, in this 5 minutes, lady I just met, in my imagination, how many times have you thought about wrapping your legs around my face? Like, well, none. But I mean, there's some people I like to be, I've thought about it with you 11 times. And she'd go, well, okay, but see, I don't find you attractive. It was like, I don't find you attractive even a little. And also, I'm not one of those, I just want to give everybody a head guys. Hey, I'll do it. But, I'm not one of those, like, I live in dimes. Like, I definitely don't want to do it to you. I've thought about it 11 times in 5 minutes. And you know why I use that as an example? Out of all the other things I've thought about, it's the smallest number. And along with a bunch of them, it's in the minority that maybe didn't involve you, like, being permanently injured in some way. Like, so just so you know, we're just, you guys just lack self-control. No, it is Lovecraftian in there. And I'm in my mid-40s, okay? Like hardly anything gets me a boner anymore. God bless my wife, she's capable of it. But like, when I was 15, like someone would ring the doorbell and I'd get a semi. I'm like, whoa, someone here? I don't even know who it is. Like, it doesn't matter. Warm breeze would go by, and I would just start thinking about what I would do if I was a medieval king and there was no rules. And it's like, yeah, John Wheeler's like that. Yeah, John, he was in bands, and he would agree to do things with people that wanted to do things with him, who later grew up to realize they didn't marry him or something, and now they're mad. What a monster. Yeah, but most guys aren't like that. Most guys, no. It is just a dark, black, venomous fucking something out of Dune.
I think you just made the point why most women
yes!
would rather meet a bear in the woods.
Yes! That is my exact point. That is my exact point. But here's the thing. The idea that this revelation is news to anyone is what I'm suspicious of. Like, I'm just like, yeah, guys are monsters and we know it. But we feel like
it's not news, it's just stirring the big pot of bullshit.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Its purpose doesn't feel that much like some kind of harm reduction.
No.
It feels like a good way to get everybody mad and whatever. And like, but yeah, there is just, oh yeah, but here, okay, so yeah, good point as to why that, but here's what I'm trying to say. The idea that some kind of policy or conversation is going to change the reality of all that horrible stuff I was just saying or alluding to is absolutely insane. And I think it comes from some people, half of people approximately, maybe not realizing how bad it even actually is. Like you don't want to run into a man in the woods or whatever because he might do something, maybe he'll help you. I don't know. But he might do something just beyond horrific to you or whatever. And the reason for that is he just didn't have someone there to tell him how to, and that's where I get to my very last final point, which is this feels like it could be something meant to be kind of divisive, but it also might come from the top down as a warning, and one that I'm not entirely inclined to disagree with. And I've some of you will recognize what I'm about to launch into from other episodes, but that is the thing. The reason that you wouldn't want to run into a man in the woods, but it's like a little bit safer in a grocery store, is because we have this thing called society, and it ain't perfect. And in it's been bad a lot, and there's different societies all over the world. Some are a lot shittier than this one, some are better, but we have one. And having that keeps a lot of that stuff from happening. Now, all of it, no. That's the whole problem. Is there's people that will just do things whether or not it's okay to do it and whatever, but it's like, it's a numbers game. And there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of especially right now, and there's a lot of Civil War talk from, everybody on the right I've made enough fun of, it's like, okay, yeah, you fucking fat asses are going to get out of Golden Corral long enough to overthrow the government. Oh, you have an AR-15? It's like, well, they have something floating around in orbit you've never even heard of that's just going to drop nerve gas on your house while you're asleep. There's nothing you're going to, there's nothing you're going to do. But we know that that's ridiculous, but there are a lot of like college students and stuff who have this whole like thing where they're like, we need to society isn't perfect and it's not perfect for women, so we need to burn it all down and start over because voting is just, it's a band-aid. It's not really going to do it. There's this idea that there's going to be some sort of glorious revolution or whatever. And most of the people talking about that are like, well, yeah, I don't own a gun because, when I get depressed, I wouldn't want it in the house. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to be in charge of this? Like, I don't know. But shit like this, when it comes out, it might be a class warfare thing, is what I'm saying. Is where it's like, those 15 people that own everything want to keep it that way or whatever. And yeah, they'd have a problem too if everything fell apart, definitely. But the whole thing is that we all would. And I don't think we'd make it most of us wouldn't make it to the other side of whatever that was. Starting over from scratch is not a good idea. And here's the thing when it's like, yeah, I'd rather run into a fucking bear in the woods than a man. Well, if you were like successfully destabilized everything enough where everything falls apart and it all goes, George Floyd riots times a million all over the world, and we're gonna knock it down so all the patriarchy goes away or whatever. And it's like, but now every man. The whole world is the woods, and every man is now worse than a bear. Now it's all bears. Now everything is trying to turn you into a human slave to trade for bullets or something. Like, and I've said this before, and I will say it again. Nothing wrong with any of this. Just letting you know, no one's going to learn your pronouns in the Mad Max wasteland, okay? They're just going to chain you to something and probably take your organs. Like, you don't want things to be like that. And they would be like that at least for a while if you burned everything down. And I wonder if it's a whole, like, don't rattle the cage thing. Like, hey, everybody, remember that, like, other people are scarier than wild animals and they're all around you. And it's like, the minute there's no polite society or any kind of thing that's making it so, it's like, I'm going to have rip for dinner because I'm bigger than everyone else. That guy can't really do that right now very easily, and he'll go to jail or get shot by somebody. But yeah, the minute things just kind of like fall apart, that's the whole world now. And it's really bad. So I'm like, for everyone that's like, hey, John, don't you dare make fun of this thing. It's like, this thing might be a tool of our actual like oppression, whether you're a guy or a gal or something in between. It could be incredibly nefarious. And as someone who, again, it's part of my 40-hour-a-week day job to understand some of these things to a certain degree. Now, I don't work in as high stakes as that. I'm just trying to trick people into picking, like, our vapes over someone else's, whatever. But it's as above, so below. It's very, like...
Oh, shit is propaganda.
Mm-hmm. And just by the nature of this shit being... So, I wanted to do an episode about this because, again, I made a joke about, like, okay, but, like, you'd rather run into a man than a polar bear. And it's like, again, everyone's like, well, that's childish, and you're obviously Andrew Tate now, and whatever. And it's like, yeah, but, it's just important to differentiate things like that a little bit. And it's just like, again, like, as I said, there's running into, like, 10 drunken hillbillies that find me very attractive. It's like... would be pretty bad. That's how I would probably understand kind of what it would be like to be a woman, and like, especially if I was unarmed or whatever. And it's like, I would definitely prefer a black bear or maybe some kind of brown
here
bear.
We go. Hey, men.
Over that. Don't be a gang of hillbillies.
Would you rather run into... Oh, shit. No, this doesn't really work.
No, you could.
I was going to say, would you rather run into a gang of, like, hillbillies from Deliverance or a bear? I don't know what I'm getting.
No, that's perfect. Would you? Yeah, because it'd be like, well, I'll get butt fucked by a bunch of hillbillies. It's like, well, there you go. Yeah, the bear might not do that. Now, however, the polar bear will actually eat you, and you might be able to escape the hillbillies, which was the only point I was making. Like, I'd rather run into, say... I'd still rather run into a some weird Russian separatist soldiers, like, in a tank, than like a polar bear, because I might be able to run around the tank. I might be able to pull an Indiana Jones and get on top of the tank and punch everybody, and maybe, I might die in the process, whatever. There's no mites with a polar bear. That thing's gonna win, again, if you don't have either like a 50 caliber like assault rifle or an actual lightsaber. And like, it's like, who'd you rather be locked in a room with? 10 hillbillies or a chimpanzee? And I'm like, And 10 hillbillies is just going to be my A-man, you know? Like, it's the best I can come up with. And 10 horny hillbillies that think I'm very hot. That's my guy to any woman or whatever. Or a chimp who will for sure rip your eyes and genitals off. Oh, man. It does get hard because it's like those hillbillies are wily and they could, you know. So I don't know. But the thing is everybody who goes like, that's not the point, this is an important conversation, is like, you need a little bit better understanding of how humans work. Because it's like, we're going to reach our fingers around every last bit of the loose tile and yank it off the floor. Like, it's just what people do. And so, like, my thought on it is, you can either not treat this like it's the fucking holy grail full of, like, it's like, don't you dare get a fingerprint on that. Or treat it like, okay, it's like a good point. Yeah, people are going to make fun of it, but it's like, we don't have to, like, attack them. We could just go like, yeah, okay, but you see what we're saying, right? And then that's totally diffused. Any too, whenever I made fun of the, like, oh, are you sure you wouldn't want a polar bear? There were plenty of women out there that would definitely be the kind of people to be pretty serious about that whole point, who still were kind of like, yeah, polar bears maybe a little too far. I wouldn't want to run into the xenomorphs from Aliens either. But you see what it's about. I'm like, oh yeah, I see what it's about. There you go. People are like, you know what? And then there's like 8 paragraphs. I'm like, okay, you're going to live a bitter. Everyone's gonna live a hard, shitty life, but it's like you're making it shittier on yourself. You're kind of, I don't know what it is, pushing the boulder up the mountain or whatever. It's just
the story of the internet.
It's just tough, and it is a story of the internet, and like that's the thing. Like, and I feel comfortable bringing things up online and everything, because it's like. Despite the fact that people, you know, just real quick, like Jerry Seinfeld, like the bitch, and it's like, you can't do anything anymore. It's like, I think you can just do whatever you want, and you're just being sensitive about, yeah, some people are going to yell at you about it. Like, okay, they're going to yell at you about everything. Like, in the 1950s, they were like, Johnny Cash couldn't curse on stage. Not on the radio, not on TV, not in a record. He was like, the venue is like, you couldn't cuss on stage. He brings it up in a live version of A Boy Named Sue. It's like, no, I can't cuss on stage. Well, you know what I would like to say. Blah, blah, blah. That's Johnny Cash, who's known as like this rebel. It's the late 1950s, which was known as, that's when men got to slap their secretaries and drink at work and do whatever you want. The good old days, I guess some would call it, weren't for most people. But you live to the ripe old age of 51, just chain smoking in the sun with no sunscreen and try to drink to forget the horrors you committed in World War II. Like, yeah, it's not whatever, but it's always been like that. And it's like, you can say and do whatever you want as long as you're not a little bitch. Like, I think that's my point. And now I'm going to end this on the positive note of making fun of the men that like to complain about that stuff. Like, that is who I'm calling little bitches. Everyone that's just like, if everything wasn't so woke, it's like, everything is how it's always going to be. And it's like, I'll put shit on the internet, and yeah, I risk people going, like, hey, you're not funny and you're a jerk. I'm like, I know that. I know both of those things. Like, I'm okay with you thinking that. I would be okay with someone closer to me thinking that, and I'm definitely okay with an imaginary person on the internet that, even if I went to high school with that person, the real version could have died 15 years ago and been replaced by an online bot, and I wouldn't know the difference. So I'm not going to get too bent out of shape about it, and I'm just going to say what I'm going to say, because I'm not trying, there's not a game that I'm trying to win, and the only reason I'm talking about what I'm trying to do or not do is because I think other people could maybe do the same. It's like, you don't have to die on all these hills. Like, you can go ahead, you can say something dumb on the internet and someone can disagree with you and maybe you'll learn something, or maybe you can ignore them. But it's like, you definitely just don't have to get so goddamn, it's like, what do you mean? I think most men are pretty great. I'm great. Why don't I have a girlfriend? It's like, just shut up and go get one. I don't know. You're never gonna find someone to touch your wiener just yelling and fighting people on social media. That's not how that works. So, like, yeah, maybe unplug for a little bit. Go outside, talk to somebody.
Anyway, in Bear We Trust. And let's move on to Dear Asshole.
Yeah, I trust bears to, I don't know, eat garbage and kill people. That's fine. There, but for the grace of God go I. Oh man, I got through a few of these. Dear Asshole Celebrity. Dear Asshole Flight Attendant. I don't think I've read this one. Let me just make sure. Ooh, Dear Asshole Gamer. That'll come up later. But yeah. Okay, Dear Asshole Flight Attendant. This fucking book, by the way, like, like, I have no idea. I never read ahead. I'll read the titles just to make sure I'm not lost or whatever. But it's like, so I'm like, oh, asshole gamer. I know that'll be one eventually, but I'm never gonna like read the whole thing beforehand. Dear asshole flight attendant, I have no idea where this is gonna go. Like, it's supposedly two women who wrote this book. I still actually think it was written by someone in the Fae realm that's just trying to fuck with us. But like, who are probably neither man nor woman nor human nor animal, but yet a thing beyond. Because I think this is a cursed item. You Dear asshole flight. So it's like, maybe it'll be them doing the thing where they were like, remember back in the day when you had to be skinny enough to fit down the aisle, or it's going to be some other angle, and I don't even know what. And
I don't think it's going to be that.
They've surprised me a few times. Like, I don't know.
That's really true.
These people have allegiance to absolutely no one. Like these, like if we're talking about someone who like clearly just like when you say the word criticism, they're just like, is that a planet in Star Wars? What's that? What's criticism? Like, I don't think they understand what that even is, because this was unhinged back before unhinged was a term. But anyway, let's take a close look at this. Dear asshole flight attendant. 8 weeks at the flight academy, and you still don't know how to pour a soda amidst light turbulence? Okay, so this is yet another one complaining about the service industry in a way that says that these are some serious blue bloods that wrote this.
Wow. Ready?
Wow.
Off to a great start. I
wish I'd known that before I ordered a beverage, because now it's all over me. And like, by the way, I've been covered in alcohol on many a flight, and it's mostly been my own fault. I don't ever expect to get off of an airplane clean. No, I don't want your grody lukewarm towel or your pack of 7 stale peanuts. I don't even get the hot towel thing.
Don't go on a goddamn plane.
And these people are clearly flying first class and bitching about it because they don't bring you a hot towel and Sun Country airline. Like, that's never been a thing in my life.
No.
Like, if the towel is hot, it's
they don't even give you peanuts anymore.
No. If there's a hot towel in Spirit Airline, it's because the bathroom's on fire. Like, that's not... That's actually kind of funny. Okay, oh my God. So yeah, your pack of 7 stale peanuts, so stop scraping my knee every 5 minutes with your rickety cart. They go up and down the plane like twice. God damn it. My seatbelt is fastened and my tray is in the folded position. So give it a rest. I guess they're just keep telling him to do that over and over again. And while you're at it, stop rolling your eyes at my carry-on. It's regulation size, you phony plastic bitch. They did work a little sexism in there. Look at them go. This book was written by goblins. Like,
oh my God, he's telling the truth.
Oh, me, yeah.
You phony plastic. This is an all-time. Wowzers.
Wow.
We need to like.
I like this one. I normally rip the pages out and shit, but it's like in the '89 Batman. Hang on, I kind of like this one. Yeah, so I again, allegiance to no, because this book was apparently written by 2 women who I believe are sisters, unless they're a married couple, but I kind of feel like this is family money driven. So we know a lot of things about these people, and they're women. They come from like a lot of money, and they're probably like saying "you plastic bitch." They're probably just unfuckable hedgehogs. Like I mean, fine, but it's like I think they're taking it out on other people.
Put them in the woods, John. Send them to the bears.
They have chosen the bear. Wait, what the hell was that from? Wasn't there like there was like a weird internet goof a long time ago where someone was like, trick or bear, and then the person is like, bear, and they're like, he has chosen the bear, and in the distance I hear clanking chains and bear roaring or whatever. It's like at Applebee's where you either get an apple or bees. And he chose the bees, and there's just a chef shaking up a thing of angry hornets.
Not the bees!
Oh God, not the bees! Garbage bees! Yeah. So this was a ride in 2 paragraphs. They're bitching about the service. Like the people in this book are classist, racist, and sexist. They're all the things. Yeah, like bad Karens. And again, from 2011, not it was like they predate a lot of these labels and things. And And yet, like, maybe this book is from, whence they all came. Anyway, Fly the Friendly Skies. P.S. You'll never marry a pilot. Ooh.
Ooh.
That's another 19. Oh, the only reason to become a flight attendant, it's not a real job. You're just looking for a man.
I'm surprised they weren't like, dear asshole stewardess.
Oh, someone gave them notes, I'm sure. I'm sure their dad, who owns the publishing company, who I've said that a million times, or I guarantee that a couple of these were funny because they're probably like, oh, we came up with some funny jokes. We can maybe put them in a book. And their dad's like, I've been publishing for a long time, girls. And you got to come up with 101. Okay? It's 101 dog jokes.
Is the magic.
101 dick and fart adventures. It's 101, knock jokes. That's how you do it. So they just come up with these. And I'm sure they just ran it through the thing. And they were like, okay, you have to say flight attendant. You can't say steward, but like this was written as if it was written by someone that would be saying stewardess, like for sure. Someone else made them say flight attendant. And it's like, you'll never marry a pilot. And it's like, yeah, they could be, now all people included, they could be throwing shade at a dude, maybe suggesting that there's a lot of female pilots. I think there's like 5.
Or gay flight attendants.
I would say gay, but that's another stereotype though. So I'm trying to be like, nice to them and be like, okay, well, maybe it's a straight guy who's after a lady pilot.
Yes, that too.
But we all, but the whole
the other one.
I know that, but the hilarity of reality kind of goes like, and we know that that's not the case or whatever. It's like there are female pilots, they are not a lot of them. It's like Black Astronaut. It's like that's a unicorn. You gotta hang on tight if you find one of those. If you find a lady pilot or a black person in outer space. If you ever get to shake their hand, baby, you've lived life. But that stated, what I want to really just make sure that everyone understands is these are two women being incredibly sexist towards women in like a 1960s fashion. Like that's just kind of incredible. Like honestly, there's been stuff in here that's been racist enough where it's been of note.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of classist stuff, but like sexist to that level, I actually have not seen yet.
Classist and all, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, 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 boom. And we shot him. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, so this book is, again, came from wherever the Ark of the Covenant came from. It's just a bad thing that hurts people. And I throw it at the drums, because that's funny. But anyway, yeah, so I guess, yeah, weirdly apropos. Again, like, I want to really point out that I don't read ahead. So us touching on this subject that's kind of like, oh, there's a lot of sexism, mired in the weird bad faith discourse floating around the whole "in Bear We Trust" thing or whatever like that. And so it's like, it would be funny if I'd picked out that particular passage, but I didn't.
The universe picked it.
The universe picked it because, again, that book is from like, some sort of like H.P. Lovecraft dimension. That's the norm. It's a thing that should not be. And yeah, it's like I don't really think we propelled any cause forward today, and I don't really think we helped anybody or saved anybody from either a man or bear attack.
Not at all.
But
contributed nothing to society.
No, we contributed absolutely nothing to society, which means that this podcast is at least as useful as the Man and the Bear in the Woods study.
The Reverend John Wheeler podcast takes zero responsibility for the words, actions, or ideas of its host, guests, or listeners. Though the people on the screen may at times be speaking directly to you and may occasionally give you direct calls to action, neither Reverend John nor the Alchemical Cocktail Lounge are under any moral or legal obligation to answer for the potentially disastrous repercussions that may arise if you are stupid enough to actually follow the orders of a raving lunatic. Think for yourself and do whatever you want, because you're on your own. If anyone ever tries to sue this podcast, black SUVs will converge on your location in the darkness of night and you will never be seen again. Remember to like and subscribe.